excuse me. There have been some updates in the David case. I'm gonna go ahead and give y'all those updates and be on out of your way. Let's go. And shout out to Law and Crime for this.
The investigation into singer David has intensified after the body of a teenager was discovered in a Tesla that has been linked to him. From canceled tours to social media revelations, new developments are raising serious questions about their supposed relationship and the ongoing probe. We are going to break down the latest developments in this case and what law enforcement is focusing on next with a retired detective. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law and Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. Investigation into Houston-born singer David D4VD, real name David A.M.K. Burke, continues to widen after the body of 15-year-old Celeste Rivas Hernandez was found decomposed in a Tesla reportedly registered to him. Authorities are still working to determine exactly what happened here, but the fallout is growing. There's an alleged former teacher of Celeste been coming forward with troubling claims about her connection to the singer, and we're going to get there. But first, we got to look back at what we know when this case first broke. We covered it here on Sidebar, but on September 8th, LAPD officers responded to Hollywood Tow on Mansfield Avenue, and this is after workers reported a foul odor coming from a car. That car was a Tesla with Texas plates.
Dreaming of the perfect family trip?
Who are you?
Honey, Priceline's AI travel assistant.
How about Eco Resort, free breakfast, zip line?
Done.
Foul odor coming from a car. That car was a Tesla with Texas plates registered to be abandoned in the Hollywood Hills and towed inside the front trunk. Authorities discovered dismembered human remains wrapped in a bag. The Los Angeles County Medical Examiner identified the body as Celeste Rivas Hernandez, who had been missing from Riverside County since April of 2024. According to reporting from KTLA, the truck for about 5 days. The medical examiner's office said that Celeste's body was badly decomposed and appeared to have been in the vehicle for an extended period of time. Now, Celeste's cause of death was listed as deferred, but around the time that she went missing in 2024, there were rumors that circulated that David was dating a teen girl named Celeste. This is according to screen captures of messages that were posted in 2023 in chat rooms, namely Discord. Now, Celeste, who had just turned 15 the day before her body was found, was remembered by family as a wonderful daughter, sister, cousin, and friend. Her brother previously told NBC Los Angeles that she disappeared after leaving the family home to see a movie with David. Reports also noted a striking detail that Celeste had a tattoo on her finger reading "shh," and multiple photos showed David with a nearly identical tattoo on his neck. Now, in the past week, both of David's remaining U.S. tour dates, San Francisco and Los Angeles, were canceled, along with at least 9 European shows that were listed on Ticketmaster, including an October 1st stop in Norway. A scheduled Grammy Museum appearance in Los Angeles was also pulled from the venue's website. His label, Interscope, later told TMZ that all promotion for David, including his deluxe album release, was being paused. And David, by the way, was also the face of a new collaboration between Hollister and Crocs. But he was scrubbed from the campaign just days after it was launched, according to the New York Post. Now, a spokesperson previously told NBC News that David was cooperating with authorities, but to be clear, there's no formal arrests. Now, investigators are digging deeper into this case. We are too, and for that, I want to bring on a special guest. I want to bring in Matthew Irvine, who's a retired detective and law enforcement instructor. Thank you so much for coming here on Sidebar. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me, Jesse.
So, based on your experience, how do police, by the way, when they're dealing with, I wonder if this is a big issue in LA, but how do police deal with prioritizing cases when you have a celebrity, a famous person, linked in some way to a crime? How do they deal with that?
Well, ideally, there really shouldn't be any distinction based on the fame or wealth of the person implicated in a crime, whether they be the accused or the victim. In reality, there are always pressures that are brought to bear on investigators, be it from within their agency or from the media or the public. And the challenge for the investigator is to remember, as Harry Bosch says, everybody counts or nobody counts.
That was the first Bosch reference we've ever gotten on the sidebar. You named it. Okay, when you're dealing with a body that's as decomposed as this, how do authorities analyze that evidence? How do they handle that evidence? And the idea that this body was severely decomposed, what does that tell you?
Well, it sounds like from the reporting we've heard so far, and again, I don't know anything about this case other than what's been publicly reported, it sounds like poor Celeste was likely in the front trunk of that vehicle for several weeks before the body was discovered, and there's even been reporting that she was dismembered. That certainly presents a challenge for the medical examiner and for investigators in terms of determining time and cause of death. Also raises some questions in terms of why the killer reportedly chose to dismember this young woman. Sometimes the killer will dismember their victim because if they do that and disperse the remains over some space, particularly certain body parts aren't found, it makes it harder to identify the victim. Now, people that kill strangers don't usually need to worry about the victim being identified because there's nothing that's next to them. So the only time the identity of the victim is a problem for the killer is if there's some known relationship.
Look, I'm going to say this. I cover crazy stories all day, and I'm not going to lie to you. Sometimes it makes me think about myself. A loved one's family, if something should happen, would my family still be able to cover the big expenses like the mortgage, utilities, the day-to-day bills? Look, I know, life insurance, that's not something you want to be thinking about. But the truth is, life is hard to predict, and it's important to start looking for options before anything bad happens, okay? And the problem is, traditional life insurance has always felt complicated and intimidating. There's a lot of paperwork, there's waiting around, sometimes there's medical exams. But with Ethos, it's easier. Ethos is an online platform that helps you get life insurance in as little as 10 minutes. It's completely online. There's no medical exams. You just answer a few health questions. And what really stands out to me about Ethos is how fast and affordable it is. You can get same-day coverage without ever leaving your house. And some policies start as low as $2 a day that it's billed monthly. You can even get up to $3 million in coverage, and you can customize a plan that works for your budget. The way I see it, it's all about peace of mind, right? Knowing your family has financial security, that makes all the difference. So protect your family with life insurance through Ethos. Get your free quote at ethos.com/sidebar. That's ethos.com/sidebar. Also, Matthew, someone would have to have the means and the opportunity to dispose of a body in this fashion and be able to deposit the body in this car. That, I wonder, is that something investigators are...
But can they prove that David is the one that did it is the question.
Who can have the means, the opportunity to do that, right?
As a military spouse, it was really important to me to find a program that understood my specific needs.
Do something like this. Who can have the means, the opportunity to do that, right?
Well, we have to kind of keep the Occam's razor principle in mind. I mean, this vehicle was registered to David Burke. It was apparently towed from across the street from a home that he was renting. So the simplest theory would be that this crime happened in or near the vehicle, and likely by David or somebody close to him with access to the vehicle. That said, as an investigator, we have to keep in mind till the investigation is complete and all the facts are in, that we don't know yet all the facts. We need to think about what we don't yet know, and as an investigator, while you want to trust your intuition and the wisdom of your experience and your common sense, we have to remember that just because you hit 100 of these cases and it always turned out this way and the answer was X, in this case, the answer could still be Y. So we have to keep an open mind. But certainly there's a lot of publicly available information that seems to point to the involvement of David Burke in the death of this child.
By the way, what causes decomposition and how quickly does it happen?
Decomposition is a natural process once the person is no longer alive, and it's affected by a lot of factors, including temperature and whether the body is protected in some way. In this case, in the trunk of a vehicle in Los Angeles in the late summer, it's likely that decomposition would happen very rapidly.
I want to get into some of the key updates in this case from the last time we spoke. So, according to Forbes and ABC News, police executed a search warrant at a Hollywood Hills home on September 18th where David had been staying. They seized a computer, they seized other items of evidence. Sources told the Los Angeles Times that David had been renting the home, which the LAPD confirmed to Forbes was on Doherty Place. That's not far from where the Tesla was reportedly abandoned. And Matthew, actually, let's just start there. What does a search like that tell us about where investigators are focusing, How significant is it that they removed electronics and other materials from this property? What is this?
Well, in order to get a search warrant, you need to be able to articulate to a judge that you have probable cause to believe a crime has been committed and that evidence of that crime is going to be found in the place that you intend to search. So just because you search somebody's residence or vehicle or other property doesn't necessarily mean that that person is your suspect in the crime. It simply means that that place is likely to have evidence related to the crime. So certainly they had to meet that legal standard in order to execute the search warrant. And I'm sure that in addition to looking for physical evidence, forensic evidence within the residence, as you said, they are seizing electronic evidence. And that's going to be critical in this case. I mean, just from what's already been reported publicly, there seems to be a lot of online communication between people who at least appear to be David and Celeste going back maybe as far as 2022. When she was 11 or 12 years old. There's also a lot of communication, again, this being posted online between David and other parties that appear to have some knowledge, at least of his relationship with Celeste. So the timeline's going to have to be important here, and the electronic records going to be an important part of that timeline.
100%. And by the way, we also have to mention that while this was going on, deputies in Houston, they also confirmed to Click to Houston, they responded twice last week to David's Cypress, Texas home after security alarms were triggered. Now, the property records tie the house to a trust that resembles the name of his debut album, Petals to Thorns. There's no search warrants that have been executed there, which is interesting because, Matthew, how would law enforcement typically treat these kinds of security alerts in an ongoing investigation when you're talking about a different property? Are you surprised that property hasn't been searched yet?
Well, that's the first I'm hearing of this, but it's interesting to think that somebody may have tried to make entry to that property. That could be an effort by somebody to remove evidence that was there. That's the obvious connection to this Los Angeles-based investigation. As to search warrants, again, officer or detective needs to be able to articulate probable cause to a judge that there is evidence of a crime on those premises. Apparently, at this point, they don't feel like they've got that.
Now, I want your perspective on this too. So TMZ obtained messages from a Discord moderator that was tied to David's online community. And the administrator insisted that they believe Celeste to be 18 or 19 years old and denied knowing that she was a missing, 15-year-old. Part of the message that was obtained by TMZ reads, "We, the Discord and Twitch staff teams, want to clarify what we knew and didn't know regarding Celeste. We were not aware of her true age or that she was a missing person. We also did not have any contact with her outside of what was made public. From what was shared in David's Twitch streams and from her role in the server, we understood her to be around 18 to 19. Now, it's not clear which administrator made this statement, but Matthew, that's interesting, right?
It is interesting, but I don't really know how relevant it is in terms of this criminal investigation. What's important is what David knew, and all the publicly available information appears to show that he knew her age, that he first communicated with her when she was a middle schooler, again, possibly 12 or 11 years old, and that when she left home with him in the first part of last year, she was only 13. And as you know, we've been talking about her a lot as 15-year-old Celeste Rivas Hernandez, and as you said, it's important to remember she never lived to see her 15th birthday.
Right.
She was found in the front trunk of that car the day after she should have turned 15. So this really is a child, and throughout her relationship with David, whatever it was, she was unquestionably a child.
And that's the point, because TMZ reports that there is this newly surfaced video that apparently shows David and Celeste together on a live stream interacting with fans. And in the clip, Celeste can be heard prompting David to respond to a comment. That video was recorded in January of 2024. You go back to that timeline, Matthew, of when they said she went missing. Is that video going to be key for investigators?
Absolutely. And that's just one of many images, moving and still, that have been popping up all over social media in the last couple of weeks. There seems to be a really strong digital footprint showing that backstage at his concerts, doing his live stream, and various still images taken in various places, going back at least to early 2024. And again, as you said, that was several months before she left home, and while she was still very much a 13-year-old middle school kid.
Well, I tell you what, it's not just investigators looking into this. There have been a lot of online sleuths that have been digging into David's posts on social media as well as his songs to see if there's any clue about what might have happened here. There's an unreleased song that was leaked last week. It's reportedly called Celeste underscore Devil Unfin, as in, unfinished. This is according to KTLA and TMZ. And in David's biggest song called Romantic Homicide, David sings, "In the back of my mind I killed you, and I didn't even regret it. I can't believe I said it, but it's true." We all know whether or not lyrics will play a role in a criminal case is a controversial and constitutional issue as well. Just putting that to the side, though. In a 2022 interview, Forbes reports that Burke had said that those lyrics are figurative, saying, "I didn't kill her physically, but in the back of my mind, she died." Sleuths have also uncovered a TikTok video made by another user, but it was apparently reposted by David, where the person in the video is chopping up chicken, and words on the screen read, "Me if I see her talk with other dudes." So David's label, Interscope Records, along with UMG, Sony Music Publishing, Wasserman, they have paused all promotional activities around his upcoming deluxe album and his career overall, basically. His last Instagram post celebrates the release of the deluxe version of his album, Withered, which was supposed to come out on September 19th. Forbes report it hasn't appeared on streaming services. Matthew, a few things here.
Yeah, ain't gonna appear. He got too much damn heat
I
on him.
mentioned, I talk about cases involving musicians and
He
criminal
need
cases and
to
whether or
scrap
not
all
the
that need to be
introduced
scrapped
evidence
away.
as intent or it shows their knowledge or what have you. But do you think that there's something of value there, or are people maybe reading into it too much?
I think there's certainly something of value. We need to be careful in treating
Yeah.
song lyrics as autobiographical or confessional. Johnny Cash saying that he shot.
Let me pause this for a second. Now, if you remember the Young Thug case, y'all do remember that they said to try to use song lyrics to lock up Young Thug and Gunna. Just think about that.
A man they know just to watch him die, and nobody thinks Johnny Cash killed anybody. But as you said, it's the totality of what he is putting out there, not just the lyrics to Celeste or Romantic Homicide, but the posts of chopping chicken. There's another post that had to do with jealous rage when he finds out she's had prior relationships. He created a sort of alter ego for his latest album and recorded called Tommy, who is pictured in a blood-spattered shirt, and David Burke described him in an interview as his sort of evil, homicidal alter ego. Supposedly there's a video of Romantic Homicide that shows Tommy murdering a girl. Is it proof of anything? No. But it's certainly information. It's certainly part of the total picture that.
Even though it's not proof of anything, it's still weird considering the circumstances with what's currently going on in this case. It doesn't point to anything, but it does make people side eye you. Give me 1 second, y'all.
Investigators and prosecutors are going to have to look at.
Why do you think there's been a full stop pause on his career? Is it because, hey, listen, from a PR perspective, from an optics point of view, as this investigation's going on, we as a business, we can't continue to promote his music. We can't,
Yeah, they can't promote
whatsoever.
him.
We want to distance ourselves. We want to let this cool off. Or does it signal to you
This
that
ain't
there is
gonna cool
something
off.
going on in the investigation?
Not in
that
any
there's
stretch,
development, that
shape, or
something is about
form.
to happen? It would help in the sense, now you know where he is, and if you need to further question him, he's not going on tour.
Absolutely. He's not leaving the U.S. As to the sort of business decisions, I mean, he right now looks like somebody who's in a lot of trouble. All of the available information right now seems to point to him. I can't imagine any publicity-conscious business wanting to continue an association with him or wanting to promote him at this time. That, though, is a different calculus than is he guilty of homicide, and can that be proven beyond a reasonable doubt? So there's the optics right now, which seem to point very strongly to his guilt. It may yet prove to be the case, but we're still a long way off from, even at this point, apparently probable cause to arrest, much less guilt beyond a reasonable doubt.
We're going to talk about this next development. It's pretty wild. Okay? A Southern California teacher who has, by the way, not yet been named by law enforcement, revealed or apparently revealed in a TikTok video that Celeste had once been a student at Lakeland Village Middle School. In that video, which was recorded by a student in his class, he can be heard recounting that Celeste allegedly told other students that she met David online, again when she was 13 years old.
I'll be right back in a second,
Was
y'all.
eventually found by police in Hollywood and then disappeared again in 2024, May of 2024. And the teacher said that he even spoke with students at the time who told them that she'd been in contact with David. TMZ says they spoke with this teacher who told them that he shared this story with his class as a cautionary tale about the dangers of social media. Matthew, given this teacher's account or alleged account of Celeste, running away, her interactions with David, what are the challenges that this type of information may present for investigators? How seriously do law enforcement agencies weigh this kind of statement?
With Purdue Global, you're getting a quality education backed by the power of Purdue University, a name employers respect. You're worth it. Start your comeback today at PurdueGlobal.edu.
Statement.
So, a video taken by a student of a middle school teacher in his classroom is not in itself proof of anything. It's information. It's not evidence. The question is, can this teacher's account be corroborated in other ways? And again, a lot of what's coming out now is just coming out on social media. Sometimes it's multiple levels of hearsay. Somebody posting on TikTok something that they're screenshotting off of Reddit or Discord. But it seems like the family is also telling authorities that indeed Celeste left home initially in April 2024. That's when that missing poster was created. It describes her as leaving home, last seen wearing Hello Kitty sandals. That she came back for about a month or so, and then she left again in May, and that she was last seen by the family going someplace with David. So if that is indeed what the family is saying, as has been reported, that would jive exactly with what this teacher is alleging. And that is useful information for authorities when it's not just alleged but also corroborated.
And the fact that this information surfaced on social media, does that affect how investigators handle it?
It's funny trying to educate
Okay, I'm
myself
back.
about this case. Most of the up-to-date and detailed reporting is on social media, on Reddit, on Discord, on TikTok, on Instagram, and that is a challenge for investigators because this is these are new media formats, quite frankly. A lot of robbery homicide detectives are middle-aged people like myself who aren't really savvy in these newer forms of media. So I would absolutely hope that there is attached to this investigation somebody who is a lot more social media savvy, probably frankly a whole lot younger than me, because that's really what this investigation.
Yeah, and that's what cyber crimes unit is for. You can actually use, if you have a cyber crimes unit, you can actually use the cyber crimes unit to help you go through that person's social media to help y'all figure out what's going on. FY.
Is going to have to include in order to really stay on top of all the leads.
Yeah. And trying to corroborate that story would be interesting too. Could the TikTok post itself be treated as potential evidence? Is it just more of a lead that they then follow? What do you think?
It's all potentially evidence. Again, the question is, can it be verified? Can it be corroborated? There's a whole lot of stuff out there. Like I said, some of it is second and maybe third hand. It's TikTokers reposting things from Discord or things from Reddit. And so all of that is not inherently all that reliable. But if it matches what Celeste's family shares, what Celeste's friends are able to corroborate, what David's digital footprint informs them of, what the forensic evidence shows, now you're starting to put together a case.
And here's the point. Through all of this, Celeste's family is left grieving. In a message that was posted alongside a GoFundMe campaign, The Rivas Hernandez family wrote, as many of you know, Celeste Rivas Hernandez has been identified as the body found last week. She was a beloved daughter, sister, cousin, and friend. Her family is heartbroken and devastated by this tragic loss. They are seeking help to lay her body to rest. Any funds you are able to donate are greatly appreciated. Matthew, do you think an arrest is imminent here? I mean, we started this case off by not even, there was a question of whether or not they'd be even able to identify the human remains. It came from the tattoo. They were able to ultimately identify this body as belonging to as that of Celeste. Do you think that there's going to be an arrest soon?
I can't speak to the timeline of an arrest. I would say this, that the men and women in LAPD's Robbery Homicide Division are the best of what they do. They're handpicked from an agency of 9,000 or so officers. In terms of the urgency to make an arrest, is there a public safety risk here? There doesn't appear to be. Is there a flight risk here? Apparently not. As you said, they know where he is, and he's not going to be able to go anywhere. So the caution will seem to be the best course of action here. This is a case that we want to put together rock solid, bulletproof before you make an arrest. And I imagine that's what the folks at Robbery Homicide are doing. I also wanted to thank you for saying what you did about the Rivas Hernandez family, because we are, as a society, fascinated with true crime, and that's understandable. Often fascinating cases, but we're only able to tell these stories. We only hear these stories because, as you said, somebody has been terribly harmed, and the people who love them are grieving. And so we need to keep that in mind and not aggrandize or mythologize the people that do this harm, but instead keep our focus on the victims and the people that love them.
Facts.
I appreciate
It's
that.
about the
This is
victims
a
and
tragedy.
getting
This
the
is a real
case on.
loss. They were experiencing it each and every day. And let me tell you, as the investigation continues, and if there's an arrest, the legal process begins, that pain only gets worse because now they have to live through it and they have to learn more details about the crime, and that's really, really tough. But at the same point, we're trying to amplify it. If people have information, know something, that's what investigators need at this point. And even like we talked about something like the teacher, will that play into evidence? Will that be a factor? Will that be part of the investigation? We shall see. Matthew Irvine, thank you so much for taking the time. Really appreciate it. I loved having you on. We'll make sure to have you back.
Thank you very much. I appreciate being on.
And that's all we have for you right now here on Sidebar. Everybody, thank you so much for joining us. And as always, please subscribe on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. Follow me on Instagram or X. Jesse Weber. I'll speak to you next time.
Lord. Okay, and that's one part. Go ahead and get this final part for y'all.
A teen girl's body is found in the trunk of a car tied to a rising music artist. Now more details continue to emerge on the connection between the two. But are all of the dots leading to an arrest? We're breaking down the latest on where the investigation stands. Thanks for joining us on Law and Crime. I'm Elizabeth Miller. The mystery surrounding the tragic death of 15-year-old Celeste Rivas deepens weeks after her body was discovered in a trunk. No one has been arrested or even charged, but that hasn't stopped some online from drawing their own conclusion about who they think might be the suspect. So this is what we know so far. On September 8th, the body of 15-year-old Celeste Rivas was found in the front trunk of a Tesla after the car had been towed to a tow yard in Hollywood. What we know about the condition of how her body was found is unimaginable. Her remains were wrapped in plastic, and according to NBC News, her remains were not intact. So the reason it took so long to ID her body was due to the decomposition of her body. This case has sparked so much interest, especially when it was learned that the Tesla Celeste David Anthony Burke, better known by his stage name David, but spelled with a 4. Now, as of this recording, David doesn't face any charges, nor has he been arrested in connection to Celeste's murder. But here's why some think he might allegedly be involved in some way. Besides the fact Celeste was found in a car registered to him, her mom told TMZ last week her daughter had been missing since April 5th of 2024 at just 13 years old. Celeste's mom told the outlet she got worried learning the news of a body being found in a Tesla because, one, the police description matched Celeste, 5'1", weighing about 70 pounds, wavy dark hair, but also a major standout, the letters SH happens to match the exact same tattoo David also has on his index finger. And if that wasn't just merely a coincidence, Celeste's mom also told TMZ her daughter had a boyfriend named David. Now, eagle-eyed fans went to David's music also hoping for some kind of clues or possible ties. In one of his leaked songs, David sings about professing his love to someone named Celeste. The verses include, "Oh Celeste, the girl with my name tattooed on her chest. Smell her on my clothes like cigarettes. I hear her voice each time I take a breath. I'm obsessed." The other verse includes, "Oh Celeste, afraid you'll only love me when I'm dressed. But you look so damn gorgeous in that dress. Missing you so much makes me depressed. But I digress because
your roommate just took up percussion. You need a job that gets you out of here. I need Indeed. Indeed you do.
because." Now, the song was reportedly titled Celeste Demo Unfit. It's interesting, though, the timing. The song was leaked in December of 2023, months before Celeste was reported missing. But if the Celeste being sung about is the same Celeste who was found murdered, that means a then 18-year-old David was singing about a 13-year-old Celeste. David's creative visuals have also faced new scrutiny. According to a report by News Nation, the singer allegedly had a casket on stage while he was performing. And in the music video for his song One More Dance, it features a body being dragged and put into a trunk. And in that video, David played both the victim and the killer. But was it all for the artistry or a dark look into his mind? It all depends on how you look at it. But the video also was released back in February, 7 months before the discovery of Celeste's body. His hit song Romantic Homicide has also faced new questions, too, for its bloody and violent visuals. But surprisingly, the song has been skyrocketing in streams in light of the investigation. Again, just a coincidence, or is there more to it? The singer has been facing backlash online, not just for the alleged inappropriate relationship, but also some unusual online activity that has some scratching their heads. Some Redditors noticed David's official subreddit has been locked. According to Fox 11, David is listed as the sole moderator of that account, and some users believe that he's been trying to control a narrative by deleting critical posts about him and the ongoing police investigation. This all came after someone who claimed to be a moderator on David's Discord server and Twitch channel claimed that they didn't know about Celeste, nor were they aware of her age or that she was missing. The admin reportedly thought she was 18 or 19. Then you have the photo that surfaced to TMZ of David in Lake Elsinore, where Celeste is from. Detectives seemingly took all of that information in, because soon after, LAPD officers searched a home where the Tesla was reported abandoned. According to ABC, officers spent hours at that home in the Hollywood Hills, where they ultimately seized evidence, including a computer. Now, the house where detectives searched was reportedly rented by a man named Josh Marshall, who just so happens to be David's manager. Detectives were looking for any kind of trace evidence, including blood. The home was reportedly a $20,000 a month rental. And according to new reports, David and his manager abruptly broke their lease just days after police raided the property. In light of no arrests or charges made at this time, David's career is already taking a huge hit. His music label put a hold on his upcoming album release and music promotions. He canceled his world tour and remaining leg of his U.S. tour. And brands including dropped the singer from their marketing campaign. But we could learn more, as investigators are likely interested in the medical examiner's findings on Celeste's autopsy, which could reveal a whole lot more and finally start to lead to answers for several unanswered questions. I'm joined now by retired homicide detective Dr. Ken Lang. Ken, thank you so much for being here today. You know, a lot of people have been following this case, but what's your reaction? You have a young teenager found dismembered in the trunk of a singer's Tesla. I'm curious, we're weeks now into the investigation, no arrests, no charges. How do you think detectives are working the case now at this point?
So right now, detectives are working this case as a fact-finding case. If you've noticed, the medical examiner has not yet ruled on the cause or the manner of death in this case. And so in this stage of the investigation, we call this a medico-legal investigation. Investigators, the criminalist, the medical examiner are all working together. They're bringing in the facts that they're seeing, and they're trying to determine what is the cause and manner of death. And so while it's a fact-finding investigation at this point, we also see foul play. Certainly, so Celeste's body is found dismembered. From the publications I'm reading, it appears that only her torso and her head wrapped in plastic was found in the trunk. So that investigators should be looking for a place, a scene where that dismemberment happened. And where are the arms and legs of Celeste? And those pieces of information could become vital because they may show signs or injuries or other information for the medical examiner in helping to determine a cause of manner of death.
And it's just horrible, like, rethinking about those gruesome details, especially with how young Celeste was. What do you think is going to be more important? Is it going to be the fact-finding, or is it going to be the results of the autopsy report?
Well, both are interlinked together and inextricably, and so that the facts that we find and the facts that reveal themselves are going to give that information to the medical examiner to make that determinant for the cause and manner of death. And so, in investigations like this, that's paramount, particularly when you're looking to see if there was any criminal activity, and if there was, what exact criminal activity had happened. Because right now, there is the possibility that she could have died of natural causes, say for example an overdose, and then people decided we need to remove her body or dispose of her body in a way that doesn't link her to us. Or it could be that there's a criminal intent and that the injury was inflicted upon her, and that, again, so those facts that they find from all of the examination of the entire body as a whole becomes paramount in making that determination.
So I feel like everything that we know right now, we still need to know so much more. But with everything we do know now, Ken, I'm curious to know your thoughts on whether or not all of this is just a really bad coincidence, or does it look like there's enough evidence kind of pointing to the singer David as having something to do with Celeste's murder?
So at this point, I don't know that there is. I don't see enough probable cause to even point to murder yet. Again, the medical examiner is going to have to rule, and without that, a prosecutor is really not going to be able to move forward. Their hands and feet are going to be bound in any criminal pursuit of charges in that way. What was the other part of your question? I'm sorry.
Oh, no, of course. I was just going to ask, do you think that we have enough evidence kind of pointing to the singer as being responsible, or do you think that everything just right now is just a really bad coincidence?
So right now, regarding the evidence, it's as you say, a bad coincidence, or it's really circumstantial, if you will. There's no direct evidence to show that David did anything to cause the death of Celeste and to dismember and dispose of her body, other than we have her body in the back of his Tesla and it's dismembered. But we don't even have proof to say that he did that per se and not somebody else that he might be associated with.
And do you think with kind of a lot of people having eyes on this case now in terms of kind of the armchair detectives, or how some people would say internet sleuths or internet vultures, do you think they're helping or hindering the case in terms of maybe just over-inundating detectives with information just because they want to get justice for Celeste and also possibly solve a crime? Do you think that those who are just curious about the case, who are just throwing in tips to detectives, do you think that that's helping the case at all in terms of finding new leads possibly?
So overall, as a detective who's worked homicide investigations, you're very aware of the court of public opinion. And the reality is these detectives are not sitting down and really watching too much of the news, the media feed, and all that information, as much as they are working the case and filling it out with plugging the holes where they have the gaps of information that they need. That isn't to say that they're not, that someone isn't monitoring the news to see if there is a witness or if there is somebody who is paramount to bringing more information into this investigation. So you may have a bystander, you may have a witness who's been communicating with some of these people who may have brought in a lead to them that becomes important. And so as those leads come in, detectives are going to go through those leads, are going to look at what is the viability of this, how valid is this lead, and often the leads that become important in an investigation will have some evidence or a little piece of information that's not commonly known to the public, but is known to the suspects involved and the investigators conducting the investigation.
So do you think it's a rush to judgment for some fans who are already thinking that David might be a suspect in this or have something to do with this? Because I mean, when you're talking about just some of the facts that we've learned so far, such as the age difference between the two, the fact that Celeste was found in his car, the fact that the car was found at a home near where he and his manager had rented out this house in the Hollywood Hills, do you think that people though are still rushing too much to judgment, thinking that he has something to do with this murder or this homicide investigation?
I think that people aren't necessarily rushing to judgment as much as they're letting their suspicion be aroused, much like a detective would in the investigation. And so, information's coming out in this case where she may not have necessarily conveyed that she was a runaway, or may not have conveyed what her age was. And in the criminal world, or when they're involved in those kinds of activities where age, such as sexual activity, and age are primary elements, depending on what crime you're looking at, that becomes important. It becomes a flag or a signal for us to start looking at, did they know? Didn't they know? But just because they didn't know doesn't mean that that's an excuse that excludes them or prevents them from being convicted of a crime. And so, with this, the information coming in, as it's arousing the suspicion, detectives think about those things. We think about, could have sexual misconduct occurred here? Was it consensual? Was it not consensual? What does this look like? What information are we seeing as far as tangible evidence that we're getting? So, for example, do we have text messages or communications between the different individuals? What's the content of that? Does that lead us to look more in one direction or to look more in another direction?
So, Dr. Lang, I'm curious what your thoughts are on a possible criminal profile attached to somebody who might have been involved in this. I'm not necessarily talking about David or the singer, but if somebody was behind the murder of Celeste Rivas, what would their criminal profile possibly look like?
So that's a good question. I don't know that I could really answer that because I don't necessarily have the psych background for that. But what would a suspect look like? And so let's take the facts of the case as we know them now. That is, her body was found badly decomposed. It's just the torso, the head. She's been mutilated. Obviously, this is somebody who did not want investigators, one, to find the body, and was successful for some time for her body to decompose over a period of time. And two, once found, didn't want her to be identified. So there seems to be a nexus to some connection with her. She is a young, attractive woman, and certainly this a possible involvement in a relationship, whether consensual or not, is important to look at too with regards to that profile of the suspect. There's information that came out in some of the publications that there was a young lady in one of David's videos that looks like Celeste, but they didn't sound like they could sort of give a positive identification to that. Is there some attraction there with that? And so certainly you start looking at the possibility of, could this have been a meeting by chance? She runs away from home, meets him, and then runs away to be with him because of some romantic relationship. And then it goes bad. Something happens, something goes awry, and then she meets a demise.
It's just horrible, the circumstances overall, because again, Celeste was so young. She had her whole life ahead of her, and then this happens to her, and I'm hoping that she and her family get justice at some point. My final question to you, Dr. Lang, is how long do you think it'll be before an arrest is finally made, if an arrest is finally made?
At the top of the show, we were talking about the importance of the medical examiner and what those findings are going to be. It was always my experience that it would take about 10 weeks from the date of autopsy before an autopsy report would be issued. Currently, the medical examiner's office has deferred her findings. They're waiting for toxicology to come back, and they're also waiting on if there's any further evidence that is relevant to that determination of cause of matter of death. And so I would certainly say a few more months before we have all that information and better know and understand. And then if there is information revealed that there is foul play, that there are injuries that would have caused the death, and then this is ruled a homicide, then at that point, investigators are going to have to link that injury to the actual suspect. And so how long that takes, well, that's going to depend on how many interviews they've conducted, what information they've learned from those interviews, and again, what other tangible information they have that's external from those interviews, such as messaging and emails, phone calls, text messages, all internet searches, and so on and so forth.
I guess we'll see once all of that comes to fruition. Again, Dr. Ken Lang, I want to thank you so much for your time and your insight into this case. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on.
As of this recording, David Anthony Burke, or David, hasn't been arrested or charged in the death of Celeste Rivas, but we'll continue to keep a close eye on this case.
With that being said, that's the most up to date that I have about the David case. I'll do my best to keep y'all updated. See y'all later. Peace.